Hi, and welcome to the Recreate Pods Hunted AU Season 3, Episode 4. Now, this was always going to be a bit of a come down after the self-proclaimed greatest episode ever, but it still turned out to be a pretty good follow-up.
It's a really good episode, and I'm so glad we caught it. The breakdown is coming up. Just a quick recap of the previous episode. We see the hunters on a very thrilling car chase with Joanna and Lee. We see them jump out of the car. We see Lee getting caught and Joanna running very quickly away from the hunters.
Yeah, and it's all but inevitable at this point. Just a matter of time before those short legs get caught up. And as we open up the episode, sure enough, they get caught and their time on the run is over.
Yeah, and I think Lee was like saying, "Oh, I should have been smarter from the start." What did you make of
I
that?
think that pretty much sums up their whole game. They should have been smarter from the start. Looking back, I think they let themselves down in three key areas. Number one, not understanding the tech, not understanding the capabilities of the hunters and what they could do with all the technology around them, and not understanding how to utilize the technology on their end.
And we have made the point before. I was wondering, have they actually watched the show before?
Yeah,
Because it seems like they just made so many slip ups in terms
yeah,
of letting themselves get caught on CCTV,
yeah.
getting
Using
getting
ATM
pinged
card.
ATM card, not using a disguise properly, going into a service station. All these little things really help the hunters track them down very very quickly.
Yeah, and using not understanding the technology. I think you're right. I don't know if they've been watching the show because they remade a lot of the same mistakes that previous contestants have made. They didn't seem to learn from previous contestants. So, like to know. Number two, they use traceable contacts. So the show really catches you quickly if you connect yourself, like that old Kevin Bacon game, 6 Degrees of Separation, or the movie, the Will Smith film. If you connect yourself within a few degrees of separation, the hunters will quickly close in on you. The problem is they kept on going from contact to contact to contact with only a single degree of separation. So sure, they went to Victor, but then they went to Victor's friend Leanne, and then Leanne's friend. Just hopping from friend to friend without jumping and leaping a degree of separation.
Yeah, and of course, the hunters have got the contact numbers, the car registrations of all of their direct contacts, so they're
Mm,
very easily traced. And that's what we see in the last episode was that they were chasing the car. The hunters pulled up alongside, wind down
yeah,
their window,
that was
waved
a
at
great
them.
moment.
Yeah, that was a very, very thrilling chase.
Yeah, and so you have to really add another layer of separation between yourself and the hunters because the time that it takes you to call a contact, arrange a contact, go from a contact's house to that contact, in the modern world, these hunters are just clicking. Like the speed of it takes to go from one hyperlink to another hyperlink, they've closed that distance. They're literally surfing through the internet at the same pace that you're walking and doing all this traveling. So yeah, you cannot outrun the internet, is what I'm trying to get at. The third fault in their gameplay that let them down was complacency. Thinking that physicality could give them advantage over awareness, intelligence, and knowledge.
Yeah, I did feel like they were very complacent, especially Lee. Just some phrases that he said. Oh, I think we're very slick. We're so
Mm,
slippery that the hunters can't catch us,
very
and that kind
cocky.
of led to his
Mm.
downfall, unfortunately.
And we saw it early on in the game. He was saying things like, "Oh, I'm the strongest person here. We're the fittest. The hunters can't catch us. We're just too fit." Man, fitness hasn't got anything to do with this game. Maybe in 5% of it when you're running across a field away from them.
Well, even then, he didn't outrun the
He didn't
hunters.
outrun them. His fitness let them down. His cardio was nowhere near that of the hunters who are fitter, stronger. These lads are fit themselves. These guys are elite. And he missed the true thrust of the game, which is subterfuge, intelligence, and laying low. So sad to see you go, Joanna and Lee, but that brings a close to their game.
Yeah, we loved watching how they tried to outwit the hunters, and it
Mm,
was great.
they were very entertaining. All being
Yeah.
said, they offered us the most entertaining moments that we have seen on the show in a long time. So kudos to them. Thank you for your contributions, but it comes to an end.
Next, we want to shine a little bit of a spotlight on Kaylee and Tony. So they are champions of the New South Wales Rally twice. They are rally car drivers, and it's a fascinating couple culture that we haven't actually seen portrayed on the show before.
Yeah, and so they are driver and co-driver, or also known as driver and spotter. And so what happens is one person obviously drives the vehicle, and the co-driver, if you don't know, will sort of call out the turns before they happen because it's such a dangerous and immediate sport. It's all happening so fast that the spotter will co-driver will call out the turns before they happen. So next is a third degree left, level four right, jump coming up, things like that. So it's really a team sport, even though you would think of it as only being a solo thing. Rally driving really relies on two drivers having a great rapport with each other. So I think that reflects these two having good teamwork, Kaylie and Tony.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you brought up because when I first saw them, both of them driving in the car, obviously at the rally, I didn't understand why Kaylee was in the car as well. I thought normally with rally drivers, it's just a one person thing.
Yeah, she's actually there as a backseat driver, much like what you and I go through when I'm a passenger and you're driving, unfortunately. Park here, turn left there. Anyway, a lot of you telling me to shut up.
There's an interesting point in the episode where Kaylee and Tony decide to actually go to the rally to meet one of their contacts. What did you think about that decision to actually put themselves out so openly?
This is really odd, and it coincides with Vicky identifying them as rally champions at that and previous attendance of this rally. So a little bit of drama made here. I think, look, A, they love rallying so much that they couldn't help themselves to freaking go like addicts.
That was what I thought. I was like, oh my god, they really cannot miss this this drive.
They're meeting a contact or contacts, and it's essential for them to go to continue their journey. Or C, the show kind of coerced them to go so as to create drama. Look, we know, and we've talked about in the past, how the show and the producers insist on them making moves. Otherwise, we're going to get people just literally bunkering down and hiding under the blankets for 2 weeks.
Which isn't going to be very exciting.
It's not going to be very exciting. You have no show if that happens. And so we do know from past experience that the contestants are sort of, encouraged to make a move every now and then. I think it's honestly all three of those. I think they love rallying. They went to go meet a contact, and the producers encouraged the action.
Yeah, because it shows a really fascinating side to rally car drivers, which we don't see on the show before. It's exciting. There are a lot of like motor vehicles, and we get them, we get them to see in their natural habitat where they really are.
A lot of visual interest,
Yes.
fast cars. It's interesting for the show to have as a spectacle to then have, to be portrayed and people watching it.
And it could also be one of the reasons why Kaylee and Tony were also picked for the show because they do have this fascinating culture about them that can actually be highlighted in the show as a feature.
And then we get a bit of a I told you so moment where Vicky encourages it, says, look, this is a real follow-up. Ben then goes to Reese and should we do it? And Reese is just a straight, nah, nothing there.
Do you think that was a mistake?
That's a massive mistake. Reese fucked up. And then we see them at the rally, and the next day, them looking through Facebook posts, and clearly them standing in the middle of the event, and Reese just slapping, a oops moment.
Well, do you think that if the ground hunters had gone to the rally, they would have been able to catch Kaylee and Tony?
For sure. They would have been prominent, front and center. This is a massive slip of the net moment and fantastic drama. And look, they look uncomfortable, scared, tense the whole time they're there. I really do feel as if they didn't want to be there the whole time.
They really didn't look like they were
They're
enjoying
not
themselves.
enjoying it. They weren't looking at the rally cars and admiring the drifting, that's for sure. They just couldn't wait to get out of there. And so they make contact with a pilot and off they go. And the hunters are at least a couple days behind them.
We then move on to Jayde and Tayla, who are beach besties from Queensland.
The blonde besties, yeah.
Yeah, so we see them bunking down at a friend's beach house, pining away at the fact that they could not be out in the open, could not be surfing, could not be out on the beach. They are having quite a good holiday as their fugitive stay.
Yeah, making pancakes, chilling out. They're feeling a little bit restless, a little bit, going a bit stir crazy. But nevertheless, the world is opening up to these ladies as it only can for blonde besties. And that runs in very stark contrast to Ben and Luke, who are going from person to person, asking for help. And only when they come across someone else from the gay community, do they get help?
Yeah, it is very different in the way that people automatically want to help Jade and Taylor
Mm,
because they are very pretty, young, and which they should very rightly use it to their advantage.
very clever gameplay.
Yes, I
Use your
guess,
identity politics to your strength. Yeah.
yeah. And I think we have seen at times Vicky at HQ being a little bit frustrated at the way that they are playing the game, perhaps.
Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit of high school, resentments coming up, bubbling up. Every time they come up, she's just like, look, they're just going to be by the beach. I'm surprised they're not walking around in bikinis. These girls, they just know how to look good. Oh, a lot of bubbling hate coming up from Vicky. I hate to say it, but yeah, it's impossible not to read into.
Yeah, I know. I guess it can be very frustrating, when you see like girls who are using their pretty privilege, like to navigate the world. But that's what they have, and that's what they should very
Hey,
rightly. You have to use what you have to your
they
advantage.
didn't choose to be this. They were given this. Use what you got, girls. Good on you. Look, if I could be reincarnated as a beach blonde, I'd take it in a second. The world is kinder to those people. Why not? Use what you have.
That is not to say though that they aren't smart because they are very smart. As we have seen, they have actually not used a lot of their contacts. They have approached strangers to get a hitch ride to
Exactly.
the ferry. They have asked the stranger to buy the tickets for them. They have actually been very cautious actually in not using their Mikey cards, which I thought was a brilliant strategy.
Yeah, as they say, no tap, no trap. And this is an ingenious play. They get to the ferry and then they move on to the bus, but a smart play that has let down other players, instead of tapping their Mickey card, they walk up to the bus driver and using their charm, they're like, we haven't got cash, we haven't got a Mickey card. How about you let us on for free?
Oh, okay. How did
Well,
that
I
go?
think they're very smart in the way that they are able to very openly share their problems and their vulnerabilities and leave it for people to offer to help because people do want to help them.
Fascinating social experiment here. So yeah, I decided to go about and tell people I was a fugitive. So here we have a recording live of me actually doing this experiment. There's some friendly looking guys up ahead. I might ask them if I can get some help. Maybe a phone call, somewhere to stay. Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm a fugitive on the run. I was wondering...
He's the fugitive. Get him.
Hold him down, cuz. Hold him down. Got him?
Hold it, stop him in the nuts.
Done. Quickly, go. Call the cops. Call the cops.
Call the cops. Garrison Ford, motherfucker.
Okay, so as you can see, it didn't go quite as well for me.
Very, very different experience.
Yeah.
Back at HQ, one of the hunters notifies Ben that the stolen cash was actually pinged at the Sorrento ferry where Jade and Taylor were just at.
Yeah, and I think this is a bit of a production leap, which often tends to happen. Obviously, all the cash is marked with sequential numbering so that when they do turn up in the systems, people are notified. However, it normally takes much longer than this, and it only occurs once the currency has hit the banking system. And this incident, they ping it when it hits the ferries, which wouldn't actually happen in real life. Normally, it would hit the banking system and they would have to trace backwards who deposited that cash. For example, was it, a convenience store? Was it a corporation? Was it a teller? And then they would trace it that way. And this system takes ages, as we're seeing with criminals on the run. Here, they're able to ping it almost instantaneously. So another production leap by the show.
Yeah, I did wonder. I did think, oh, that's very quick that the cash was pinged so quickly. Because normally, I don't believe ferries drop off cash at the terminal, at the bank terminal every day, maybe once a week.
Yeah, who knows?
And
Yeah.
everyone uses card these days.
Everyone
Who's
uses
going
card.
to, have that much cash?
But obviously, the show has it in its language that once people use the cash that has been given to them, the stolen cash, that's an automatic default ping back to HQ, which is just the language of the show, the rules of the show. And so, catching up with the two beach blondes, we see that they haven't used cash to get onto the bus. They've used their charm. And this shows a bit of a weakness with the hunters because their mouths are left agape. Their mouths are literally on the floor. They just cannot figure out what the ladies have done. And this shows maybe a weakness in their thinking. because they rely so much on technology in tracing these fugitives that when the fugitives don't use technology, they just can't make the connection.
Yeah, I think Vicky was having a bit of trouble trying to figure out how did those girls get onto the bus when we know they've been on the bus, but they didn't use Cash, they didn't use Mikey. Wow, what is it? What's their
Yeah,
superpower?
it's the power of the blonde. More powerful than any credit card or Mickey card. The power of the blonde. It should be a book written by these two ladies.
And I think Jade and Taylor, very rightly, they say, well, people just naturally want to help us. We don't have to do anything. They know their charms. And I think
They say they attract, they don't chase, which is
yeah.
must be lovely. Must be lovely.
Yeah, so I think they're very aware of the power that they have,
Good
how
on
they
them.
can use that to manipulate people to get them to do what they want. And I think, yeah, it's a great play. To be honest, I think it's a really smart play on their
Yeah.
move. And it's not something that the other couples might necessarily have. Like, they use what they have to their advantage.
Yeah, and it could be a gift, and it is a gift, but it also could be a curse in that you are using your social game to get around your looks, your attractiveness, your charm, but at the same time, as we see, the tradies notice them because they are so memorable, because they are so charming, they leave an impression no matter where they go. So sometimes it's better to be inconspicuous, to be non-memorable, but then you wouldn't have the influence that you have to be able to get around. So positives and negatives to use
Yeah.
in their game, but so far they're using it to their strength. They're
And-
using a lot of common sense.
Yeah, good on them. I think, like, that's their strong suite, and I hope to see them go quite far in this game.
Yeah, and poor Vicky, for her, it's become very personal. She even says, I've underestimated them. It's not like they're walking around in bikinis. Cut to the ladies by the pool wearing bikinis. Total burn, Vicky. Total burn. Anyway, the ladies are doing really well, and we leave them by the pool.
Next up, Romanee and Chelsea. Well, I actually really like the friendship that these girls have. They seem like they're best friends. They've been best friends for the last 10 years. Both of them are farmers. What I really like about them is how down to earth and real they seem.
Yeah, and I think that's going to play to their strengths, their ability to just relate to everyday people. They seem really hardworking, honest, humble. They have a great friendship. They really lean on each other through tough times, great dynamism and equality between them, if you might.
Yeah,
Call
and
it
I
that.
think it really, like, as a viewer, it really has you wanting them to succeed.
Yeah, as they say, they're joined at the hip. They're both farmer ladies, and yeah, they're doing so well so far. And we catch up with them, and they're in Torquay at a holiday house.
Yes, this is a friend of Leanne. So the friend is Christine. What the hunters have gathered is that they've discovered that Christine is actually a friend of Leanne's. They've managed to trace Christine's houses. So she has two. One of them is in Torquay. And the ground hunters are there on their way, Team Delta, trying to track down the girls to see if they are indeed hiding in the house.
Yeah, and going just a step backwards, the way they find this is actually in a previous episode, episode 2, they plant some hidden cameras and some microphones and some trackers in their kit bags that the girls didn't go back for, but that the people at the home happened to talk into and expose some contacts that they used.
Yeah,
So-
I thought that was actually a dead end because the girls didn't go back for the
Yeah.
kit bags, but it was such a great move on the hunter's part to actually
This was
leave.
clutch.
Yeah, listening devices, hoping to get further information, and it led them to struck gold.
Yeah, so Leanne happens to mention that, oh, I think Chris might be in trouble. And the hunters are then able to ascertain that Chris is Christine. Christine has a Facebook site. She has a house in Geelong, and she has a holiday house in Torquay. And the hunters are straight down to Torquay.
The episode shows what seems like a very close call by the hunters just missing Romanee and Chelsea.
Yeah, and this is like the hot stove in a thriller where, the pursuer goes into the house, puts their hand over the stove and notices it's still warm and says, they're still here. Here it's a wet blanket, or a wet towel.
A wet towel, yeah.
And it's like the people are still here. They're close by, and it's great stuff. Thrilling drama, and they're closing in on them.
Yeah, and we see Romanee and Chelsea actually not far away. So they are in the town of Torquay, so they haven't left the area. I thought that perhaps they would have gotten a hitch ride with some strangers, but they've
Yeah.
chose to stay in the area, which I feel could lead to their downfall. What did you think about
Definitely,
that?
they had to get out of there quick fast. Instead, what they do is they go to a place called the Peep Show?
Peep
The
Studios.
my lord, this sounds like a triple X rated store. Next time you're registering a business, be careful about registering the name Peep Studios.
Well, I guess it does make sense because it is an eyebrow and lash bar. So I guess peeping would be the right call
Yeah.
for it. But it does have some, like sexual connotations to
Very
it,
clever
which gave me a little bit of a chuckle actually.
Yeah, very clever name. Shout out to Peep Studios. It's not what you think it is. Anyway, the ladies go in there and they are able to arrange some kind of guarantee of accommodation, but that it'll take an hour. And rather than staying still or going away and coming back, they move around the whole suburb of Torquay and the whole shopping district.
Yeah, it seemed like they were really exposing themselves, and even Romanee and Chelsea, they felt that they were being very exposed. They were like, I don't want to go next to the restaurant. There's a lot of people there. They felt very self-conscious. They were trying not to walk too fast or trying not to run so as not to draw attention to themselves. What did you think?
Yeah, they are literally spelling out their mistake and then doing that mistake while they're saying it. They're like, we shouldn't expose ourselves as they're exposing themselves. They are completely vulnerable. The entire suburb is now looking at them, has eyes on them, has now seen them. Anyone that's been to a small town or lives in a small town knows two ladies with GoPros strapped to their chests and a camera crew following behind them. That becomes the talk of the town very, very quickly. It won't take long before the whole town knows about their presence.
Yes, Romanee and Chelsea, they seem very self-conscious as they're moving about town. You can see them, they feel very exposed. And when they go past the restaurant, they're like, oh my God, there's so many people here. Hey, don't run so fast. They don't want to catch draw any attention to themselves. They look quite uncomfortable.
And so they should be, because the hunters are all over them. They have CCTV footage of the area. They have a ground crew, I think it is, of Delta right on their tail. They're really trapped right now.
Yeah, it feels like the ground hunters are just around the corner from where the ghosts are. And any moment, by chance, they are just going to catch these ghosts walking around and just chase them.
Yeah, it looks like a chase is about to happen at any second.
It's a real cliffhanger.
It's a real cliffhanger. And so we end episode 4 with that cliffhanger. What did you think? What do you think of the girls' chances at this point?
Oh, I feel like they're just about to get caught at any moment. I can't wait to see what episode 5 shows. To be honest, I'll be surprised if the girls get away. But here's hoping, fingers crossed.
Yeah, good luck to the girls. We'll find out in episode 5. So thank you for joining us.
This is a wrap up. Thank you so much for listening to the show. This is the Recreate podcast by Michael and Teresa. You can find us at Recreate on TikTok and Instagram. That's WRECK.CREATE, where you can watch highlight videos of what we've talked about. If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe to our pod. It really helps us a big deal, and we are extremely grateful for any support you give. We'll be back shortly with the next episode. Stay tuned.